If you make $125,000 a year in Canada and still can't afford a basic townhouse, mortgage broker Ron Butler says the housing math is simply broken. Welcome to the Daily Brief Canadian Macro. I'm Steve. Today we're diving into Canada's housing affordability crisis from multiple angles. Ron Butler broke down why middle-income Canadians are being priced out and explained how mortgage regulations might be making things worse. And Mark Mitchell exposed major flaws in a widely reported wedding postponement survey that's been making headlines. Let's start with Butler's stark assessment of housing affordability. Ron Butler had a particularly blunt take on housing affordability using a real caller situation. The caller into his show makes $125,000 annually with $60,000 in savings and $40,000 in debt, and Butler's conclusion was stark. Even decent incomes can't afford basic housing like townhouses in markets like Barrie, Ontario. Butler walked through the math and found that this caller could potentially squeeze into a townhouse purchase, but only if prices dropped to around $500,000. What's interesting here is Butler's language. He said it's very difficult for someone earning $125,000 a year to afford decent housing, with townhouses, semis, and single-family homes remaining too expensive. He expects townhouse prices to eventually come down into the $500,000 range, particularly in areas just outside Barrie. Butler also testified before Parliament's Finance Committee about these affordability challenges facing middle-income earners. This connects to another regulatory issue Butler highlighted. In another video last week, Ron Butler argued that Canada's mortgage regulations are actually counterproductive. His main thesis is that Canada is using both stress tests and loan-to-income monitoring simultaneously, when other countries like Britain choose one or the other. Butler points out that Britain developed LTI programs to monitor mortgage portfolios, then eliminated stress tests as redundant, while Canada kept both systems running. He describes this as unnecessarily restrictive belt and suspenders regulation. What's particularly interesting is how lenders are responding. They're creating contract rate qualifying products with 40-year amortizations through partnerships to sidestep what Butler calls regulatory overreach. Butler emphasizes these 40-year terms are designed as temporary relief with 3-year terms or less, allowing borrowers to switch back to 25 to 30-year terms at renewal. The goal of this is to improve cash flow and balance sheets so borrowers can stabilize and move back to mainstream credit products later. It's worth noting that critics would argue normalizing longer amortizations embeds higher prices permanently, more buying power chasing the same supply. Butler doesn't address that directly, but it's a tension worth keeping in mind. Meanwhile, Mark Mitchell was looking at survey data that's been generating housing headlines. Today, Mark Mitchell debunked a widely reported Royal LePage survey claiming Canadians are postponing weddings to buy homes. Mitchell's core argument is that the poll has fundamental flaws, and media misrepresented its findings to create misleading real estate narratives. The survey's main question asks respondents about their own wedding plans or someone they know, which Mitchell says makes the data meaningless since most people don't know their friends' intimate financial decisions. He also found the poll heavily oversampled Atlantic Canada, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, but doesn't provide provincial breakdowns. Yet media reported it as representing all Canadians. The survey admits in fine print that no margin of error can be associated with a non-probability sample from web panels, meaning the survey can't represent the Canadian population. The $20,000 poll generated widespread media coverage that could artificially create perception of incoming first-time buyer demand, which benefits the real estate industry narratively, whether or not the underlying demand is actually real. The common thread across today's creators is how narratives can obscure the underlying realities affecting Canadians. Butler shows the mathematical reality that middle-income earners are being priced out, complicated further by regulatory overlap that may be making qualification harder than it needs to be. Mitchell demonstrates how flawed survey methodology can generate misleading headlines about housing market demand, creating a false picture of who's actually in the market and why. Together they make a consistent case. Both the policy layer and the media layer are adding noise on top of a housing crisis that's already hard enough to see clearly. Well, that's today's brief on housing developments you might have missed. All credit goes to the creators featured today. Their original videos are linked in the description below if you want to dive deeper into any of these topics. If this analysis was helpful, please subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss tomorrow's brief, and don't be afraid to comment if there's a creator or topic you'd like to see featured here. I'm Steve, as always. Nothing here is financial advice, Everyone's situation is different, so please do your own research and talk to a qualified financial advisor before making any investment decisions. Good night.